Hazy Gray.
Hello everyone, my name is Hazy, and this video is not going to be as crazy or bombastic as my other videos, and that's because I want to take the time to calm down. I want to take the time to discuss something. Now, what I'm about to say might make you immediately click off the video, but here it is. I play Fortnite. If you haven't left the video, thank you for sticking around. Let's continue the conversation. So, I've been playing a lot of Fortnite recently, especially with the release of Chapter 6 Season 1. And one thing I've been thinking about a lot recently is about medallions. Currently, sitting here in front of us are 18 medallions. These medallions are boss drops that drop from all the various bosses that appeared between Fortnite Chapter 5 Season 1 and the newest chapter, Chapter 6 Season 1, with the exception of one, but we'll get to it. These medallions are quite a controversial addition. There are some people that think that they deserve to be in the game. There's also a lot of people who think they really don't deserve to be in the game. And in this video, I want to try and open a discussion. In my personal opinion, I think medallions should be balanced in such a way so that they definitely help you out once you get them, but they shouldn't make you too strong or OP to the point where picking one up basically enables you an immediate victory. So in this video, we're going to go over every medallion that's ever been released in the game, and using this tier list, we're going to put them into one of 5 categories. We're going to put them into either OP, strong, balanced, weak, or useless. The medallions that fall into the balanced category are going to be the ones that I declare to be the best medallions in the game, because they're not too strong, but they're not too weak, and they're definitely not overpowered or completely useless. The medallions that fall in the middle are the good ones, are the ones that Fortnite should try to keep introducing every season. Anything that starts falling into OP or useless, that's the stuff that's going to need to go. So let's get started. So, one thing we have to take into account when talking about these medallions is that when you pick them up, you get marked on the map, except for one of them, which we will get to, and the trade-off is that for having the power that the medallion gives you, you are now basically wanted. You are now public enemy number 1, and people are going to be searching for you, right? So we got to keep that in mind when we talk about all these medallions. So, first of all, starting from the left, which is over here, and then moving all the way to the right, which is currently Chapter 6 Season 1, we have Valeria's medallion, Montague's medallion, I believe Nisha's medallion, Peter Griffin's medallion, and Oscar's medallion. These medallions were all introduced in Chapter 5 Season 1 Underground, and they all do functionally the exact same thing, which is that they regenerate your shield. Now, these medallions, if we're specifically talking about the release version of these medallions, the ones that came with the season at the very start, they were broken. They allowed you to regenerate 5 shield every second until you reached maximum shield, which is 100 shield, right? And that made them completely broken, because being able to constantly regenerate shield and not having to worry about holding stuff like big pots or mini pots or flowberry fizz, that made these medallions automatically the most sought after items on the island, right? Like, there was basically no point in landing at a POI that wasn't one of the POIs that had a medallion. You were actively throwing the game if you didn't go for one of these medallions. Now, to be fair, these medallions got patched, and now, instead of regenerating 5 shield every second until you reach 100, you now regenerate 2 shield every second until you reach 50. But the effect does get stronger and does start to stack with every subsequent medallion that you grab. And then when you get to 5 medallions, people will not only be able to tell exactly where you are at the map, but you also gain the original effect of regenerating 5 shield until you reach 100 every second. I still think that even with the patch, the ability to regenerate shield is incredibly strong, because inherently, Fortnite is a resource management game, right? If you're playing builds, you're obviously learning how to resource mats, but even in zero build, like having to resource manage your health, your weapons, your movement, like the way I personally like to keep my kit is that I like to have one long-range weapon, so maybe like an AR or a sniper, one medium-range to close-range weapon like an SMG or a shotgun. I like to keep one mobility item, so that could be something like, let's say, well, in the case of Chapter 5 Season 1, that was either the grapple blade or the impulse grenades. Those were also very good. And I also like to keep some shield and some medkits, so that's all 5 slots filled up, right? And that's inherently the way it's meant to be, right? Like, you're better off having your inventory be laid out that way. But because of these medallions, especially whenever the medallions were new and they hadn't been patched yet, you now had an entirely freed up inventory slot, and it didn't have to be wasted on shields. And what arguably makes these medallions even more annoying is their usefulness in squads or in multi-man matches. Now, I don't know if you did this, but I know it's something I definitely did with my friends, is that if one of our friends ever got knocked or ever got hurt and they lost a lot of shield, we just drop our medallion and then they'd pick it up, they'd regen their shield, and then it saved us having to use a big pot. And I think one of the biggest problems with these medallions inherently is that they encourage a lot of pacificity. And what I mean by that is that because you always regen shield whenever you're using these, aside from the breaks that happen in between, like just after you get shot, what a lot of players would do is that they'd get shot by people, and because they have these medallions, their very first instinct is that they run away and they hide. The medallions heal back their shield, and then they go back into the fight. And then this happens over and over and over again until either the medallion wearer kills the person shooting them, or the person shooting at the medallion wearer kills them. And I don't like that these medallions encourage that kind of behavior. And here's the thing, right? Getting marked on the map in exchange for being able to earn shield, that's not inherently as bad as it sounds, because even though wearing a medallion means that you're inherently more likely to get targeted, you're still always going to have the advantage because you have a constant source of replenishment for your shields, right? Like if you get into a long gunfight with somebody, right? Eventually, you're going to run out of shield, you're going to run out of meds, you're not going to be able to regen that. These medallions allow you to regen resources you shouldn't have anymore, which is inherently unfair, and I think that's ultimately the breaking point. And I feel like these medallions, they unironically kind of ruined the season, if I'm being honest. Like, because of how sought after these medallions were, a lot of locations on the map just became barren. Like, I know one of the places that me and my friends would visit, and this is gonna sound like a troll, but I'm being genuinely serious here. One of the places me and my friends would visit the most is Hazy Hillside. And we'd always go there because it was so quiet. And the reason it was so quiet was because no one went there. And the reason no one went there was because everyone was always dropping where these 5 medallions were. So everywhere else on the map was basically a free drop spot. So because of what these medallions did to Chapter 5 Season 1, because of how powerful they were, and because of how worthwhile they were grabbing with virtually no downside, I'm gonna have to put all these in OP tier. Like, even when nerfed, these things were great. Like, they just made playing the season so boring, because unless you were going out of your way to try and like win a match without a medallion, there was no reason to not drop at one of the spots and try and get one. It kind of sucked. And now that we're done ranking all of the Chapter 5 Season 1 medallions, which was quick because they all did the exact same thing, we're now on to Chapter 5, Season 2, Myths and Mortals, and the cool thing about this season was that it was the first one that introduced medallions that did different things. So first of all, we're going to focus on the aspect of speed. This was Zeus's medallion here, and what the aspect of speed did is that it granted you a higher jump height, it gave you increased sprint speed, and it also gave you fall damage immunity when you did a sprint jump. So whenever you were sprinting and then you did like one of those like athlete hops. Now, I don't think this medallion is actually as good as people say it is. I see a lot of people argue that it's actually balanced. I don't know, man. I think it's kind of weak. And the reason why I'd argue that it's kind of weak is because while it does allow you to definitely like navigate the map easier, while it definitely allows you to make escapes faster and it allows for like easier movement, especially vertical movement, you still can run out of stamina. Like, granted, you won't need as much stamina because of the increased movement speed, but the medallion not granting you unlimited movement speed, well, not unlimited movement speed, unlimited sprint, makes it so that it effectively becomes useless if you get into a gunfight and you run out of stamina. Not just that, but this medallion kind of became useless. I'm not going to put it in useless, but it kind of became pointless because they added an item later on in the game's life called the Banana of the Gods, and eating it would not only give you constant health regen, it also temporarily gave you the effect of the aspect of speed. So there's virtually no reason to grab it anymore, aside from never having to rely on the Banana of the Gods. So unless you were interested in Zeus's DMR, there was no reason to grab this medallion. Like, its benefits are still good, but it's kind of weak because, again, you can just substitute the Banana of the Gods for it. Now, the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of tempted to put it here. But trust me, there's a medallion coming up. There's two medallions coming up that are infinitely more useless than this. So we're gonna put you in weak tier here, Zeus, and we're gonna keep you there. Next up, we have the aspect of Siphon. This is Hades' aspect, and oh man, this is a good one. So what this aspect does is that it makes it so that when you get an elimination, you can earn up to 50 HP and health back, which is really, really good, especially in situations where you might be in a gunfight with like several people and you need a really quick source of health. Finishing someone off can give you that quick edge that is just enough to allow you to win some gunfights. Now, one-on-one, this is a really just like, it's a very beneficial medallion because like you get into a gunfight with somebody, you're probably going to get a little banged up, so being able to immediately regen some health and shield is always nice, but it's not always necessary because like you probably are going to have some health and shield on hand to go into after a gunfight, and you'll also be able to take whatever the guy you killed had on them. But in situations where you might be getting third-partied or you might be in a gunfight with multiple people at once, this is where the aspect of Siphon shines because it allows you to play aggressively, and it also helps you avoid one of the most annoying ways to die in Fortnite, that being getting third-partied by that one guy who saw you were in a gunfight and waited specifically for you to be at low health before jumping in. There is nothing better than having someone run up to you thinking you're one shot, only for you to turn around with 50 additional health and shield in pocket and just shredding them for 50 more shield and 50 more health. And while, yes, 50 more health and shield on kill is very powerful, it's also inherently skill-based, because here's the thing, right? You can jump around and you can spam movement with the, like, aspect of speed, but the aspect of speed isn't gonna help you fire a gun, right? Like, you can be a movement god with the aspect of speed, but if you can't hit your shots, the aspect of speed is not gonna do shit for you, right? And here's the thing, while, yes, all 5 of the Chapter 5 Season 1 medallions were also overpowered, if you had shit aim, yeah, they could only do so much, right? you need to be good at the game to get the most out of the aspect of Hades, because it's one of the only medallions in the game whose effect activates only on kill, right? So it's balanced in the fact that it is purely skill-based, and because of that, it's going straight in the middle, right? If this medallion had, like, health and shield on hit, then it could be strong, potentially down here in OP, but because it's on kill, it's skill-based, and also helps protect you from some of the most annoying ways to die in Fortnite, it's going in the balanced. Next up, we have the aspect of agility, and this was the one that I think everyone ran the most, right? So for those of you who don't know, in Chapter 5, Season 2, there was an ability called Underworld Dashing, where basically if you went to the River Styx area of the map, and you hopped in, like, the little green water, you'd gain something called Underworld Dashing, which allowed you to basically teleport a few feet in a specific direction, and it was really good because it allowed you to, like, juke people in gunfights, and it was really good. It made fighting in the River Styx area really hectic. Now, what this medallion does is that it allows you to do those hops without needing to be in the River Styx, without needing to dip yourself in the water, which is really good, right? But it does also have some caveats. When you hop into the River Styx and you gain the Underworld Dashes, you can only do 3 of them before you need to dip back into the water again. And with this medallion, you do technically gain unlimited Underworld Dashes, but you have to use them well, because if you use up all of them, you gotta wait for them to recharge. So there is a recharge mechanic on this ability. Now, here's the thing. I think that despite the fact this is technically a different take on Zeus's medallion, I would argue this belongs in strong. And the reason I say that is because being able to dash in any direction is really good, because you could be in a gunfight with somebody, you can dash, like, straight up. Because I don't know if a lot of people know this, your dash was not limited to directly in front of you. You could dash to the left, you could dash to the right, you could dash up, you could dash down, you could dash backwards, you could, like, dash backwards. And because of how good this movement is, it's really useful, because an opponent could be shooting at you, you could dash behind them, turn around, pop them, and, like, they can't react to that. They can't react to what is essentially Dragon Ball instant transmission. And being able to keep that movement in your back pocket, even if you run out of stamina, is absolutely fantastic. So because of that, I'm going to put it in strong. I feel like if maybe, I don't know, there was maybe, like, a longer cooldown between dashes, or maybe you had to wait a while between every single dash, maybe it would be balanced, but I'm going to put it in strong. I don't think it's overpowered, because I do believe it's one of those medallions where it kind of gets negated whenever you're fighting against someone who's got good aim, and I also do believe that's another reason why Zeus's medallion is also weak, because, yeah, you can do all the massive jumps, and you can sprint long distances as much as you want, but if you're up against someone with good aim, it doesn't mean shit. So this is gonna go in strong, but I still think that it's not terrible. It's not incredibly overpowered. This is still a cool medallion. I like this one, and I also like, not Zeus's, I also really like Hades. Now let's talk about, the aspect of combat. This one's kind of tragic, because, no one ran this. And here's the thing, it's not useless, technically. Technically, it's not useless, but okay, so let me explain. So what the aspect of combat does is that it makes it so that any ranged damage that you do, that is damage from a far enough distance away, it gets a buff, with the minimum being a 4.5% damage increase and the maximum being 6%. Now, because the damage has to be ranged in order for it to get the buff, you need to be using weapons like assault rifles, DMRs, snipers, and because of that, you're not gonna really get a lot out of this if you're running mainly, like, let's say, SMGs, shotguns, pistols especially. But the thing is, right, is that in Chapter 5, Season 2, a lot of people ran DMRs and snipers. And if you were running those, you were mainly going for headshots. And headshots with those weapons usually killed in 1 to 2 shots, right? So what this medallion was trying to do was kind of pointless, because the damage increase, in the grand scheme of things, it's minimal. And it's only really worthwhile on assault rifles. And because the damage increase isn't noticeably big, it's just enough to help you win some fights, but the problem is that it isn't good enough in enough situations for the trade-off to be worth it. Like, remember, when you're using this medallion, everyone can see where you are, and a very slight damage increase that only will apply in a noticeable way to specific weapons, it's not really worth running. Like, there's a reason that not that many people landed at Brawler's Battleground. It was because this medallion, it was weak. It was weak. The only reason people ever landed there was to get the assault rifles. So I'm gonna put this, I'm not gonna put this in useless, because if you are using assault rifles or DMRs or snipers built around long range, you will partially see better results, but I just don't think the trade-off is worth it. I think Zeus's medallion is better, but they're still both weak. So already we can see massive difference between Season 2 and Season 1. Season 1, all the medallions were overpowered. But with Season 2, we can see they were trying to experiment more. They were trying to see what would work. So they had one really good swing. They had another great swing, but it kind of overreached a little bit. And then we had 2 very slight misses here, right? Now, we move on to Season 3 of Chapter 5. That being Wrecked. And oh boy, we backstepped a little bit here. So getting started with Chapter 5, Season 3, we have Ringmaster Scar's medallion, and oh, this medallion's good. This medallion's good, but I wouldn't say it's balanced. I'm just gonna say it right now. This goes into strong tier, because what this medallion does is that it gives you infinite reserve ammo, which is ammo that is only used when you need to reload your gun, and it also gives you a slight buff to all your weapon damage. But unlike the aspect of combat, this is universal, so all of your weapon damage goes up by 4.5 to 6%. So immediately, it's much better than this medallion, because it applies to all weapons regardless of range. So it's really good. Now, the thing that makes this medallion strong and puts it out of balance is that it doesn't matter what weapon you're using. The infinite ammo buff applies. And this is kind of a problem, because in the later stages of the season, everyone was using 2 weapons, the minigun and the boom bolt. So what you would see is that people would kill Ringmaster Scar, they'd get her medallion, they'd get her car, they'd hop in her car, they'd fight in the car, and then if they had to leave the car, they would immediately start spraying with the minigun and the boom bolt. And because the boom bolt and the minigun already did insane damage and were also very ammo intensive, this basically made it so that you never had to worry about ammo for those 2 guns ever again. So if you bumped into someone using the boom bolt and the minigun and you realized they weren't running out of ammo, you quickly realized, oh shit, they're probably running Ringmaster Scar's medallion and I'm screwed, especially if they ran the minigun. The minigun's busted. So it's weird. If this medallion is used in any context other than boom bolt and minigun, it's balanced, right? Because it's just a better version of Ares' one, right? But if we're taking into account the boom bolt and the minigun, which we have to, it goes into strong. Because being able to spam two of the best weapons of the entire season without having to worry about ammo at all is really good. It's really good. Next up, we have the Machinist's Medallion, and immediately this goes into OP. I'm actually going to put it at the top of OP, and the reason why I say that is because it is literally just a buffed version of the nerfed Chapter 5 Season 1 Medallions. This medallion allows you to regen 5 shield every second until you reach 75. It is literally just a buffed version of the post-nerf Underground Medallions. Like, people hated the Chapter 5 Season 1 Medallions. They hated those medallions, right? And one of the things we asked for was that they didn't do that again. And then they did that thing again. Like, did they think we were just gonna forget about the horrors of Season 1? Did they just think we were gonna move past that? No, of course we weren't gonna move past that. That's ridiculous. I feel like I don't need to say anything else. This medallion is just this medallion right here is better than all 5 of these, right? So immediately, it's got to go to the top of OP. Now, next up, we've got Megalodon's medallion, and oh my god, this medallion's cracked. So what this medallion does is that it grants you the following. So it grants you infinite nitro. Now, let me explain to you what infinite nitro means. So, nitro was a resource in Season 3 Wrecked, and it could be found in nitro splashes, it could be found in nitro canisters, and it could also be obtained if you went through a nitro ring. That lasted 20 seconds, and it was balanced because it was a really good resource, but it wasn't infinite. This is infinite. And what this medallion does when it gives you infinite nitro is that it gives you the following. It gives you faster movement speed. It gives you unlimited sprint. It gives you an explosive shield bash, which allows you to break through walls and deals damage to players. You get immunity to all fall damage, which includes fall damage which would have been dealt by another player. You get faster reload times, you move faster when you're in a car, your car's weapons shoot faster, your car's fuel drains much slower, and your vehicles gain the exact same explosive battering ram that your character does. You basically become a crackhead, right? A crackhead that was given a bunch of energy drinks and was told to go buck wild, right? And they were also given car keys for some reason. And here's the thing. Nitro was partially balanced in Wrecked because you would either have to seek out the sources that would give it to you, or you would have to stock up on nitro splashes, right? That's how it was balanced. Now, obviously, nitro wasn't balanced. It was incredibly strong. But if you wanted to use it effectively, you had to stock up. This medallion just allows you to be cracked out all the time. You never have to worry about stocking up on nitro. And having nitro all the time is basically the Fortnite equivalent of just always being in Kaioken. And because of that, it's gonna go in OP. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of OP, because I still think constant shield regeneration is just utterly insane, but it's still really strong. Now, we're gonna move into Chapter 5, Season 4, Absolute Doom. I didn't play this season all that much, but I played it enough to know about the medallions. So, while my opinion might be not as valid because I didn't play this season a lot, I still think I played it enough to get an idea for these medallions. So, starting off, we have Mysterio Stealth Medallion. This one's just... oh god, it hurts, right? Because I get what they were going for. So the point of this medallion is that it's meant to be a stealth medallion, right? It grants you almost perfect invisibility, but only when you're crouched. So basically, if you're crouched, you become mostly invisible, except you have like this kind of purple outline, but it's like a really faint purple outline, like you can miss it. And it lasts for about 15 seconds, right? And what also is meant to balance it is that you can't use it when standing. So if you stand back up or if you swap a weapon, when you're using it, it automatically deactivates and you gotta wait a little while to charge back up. The problem with this medallion is that it has such situational uses, right? This medallion is, in my opinion, I'm pretty sure what its intended purposes was for either sneak attacks or stealthy getaways, right? Like, due to the nature of having to crouch and the invisibility not being perfect, the medallion kind of failed at doing both, because the thing about invisibility on a medallion, right, is that it doesn't really work, because the trade-off for picking up a medallion is that people get to know the general location you're occupying. So if players are chasing after you when you're using this medallion and you get away, yeah, you're gonna get away for like a little bit, but you also gotta remember they can still see your general location. So you'll get away for like a little bit, but then you're gonna start getting chased again. And when you consider the cracked out movement this season had with like the jetpacks and the Iron Man suit, it was absolutely insane. So for as cool as this medallion was on paper, in execution, it's useless. This medallion, it only really works if you're trying to go for like gimmicky like sneak attacks. But aside from that, it's useless. It's a shame, honestly. Next up, we have Emma Frost's reveal medallion, and this is just gonna go straight into just boom, straight into OP. This medallion was the only one that people wanted. Like, I only played Absolute Doom for like around the start of this season. I think for like the first 2 weeks of the season. I swear to the Bible, no one ever went for Doombot's medallion. No one ever went for Mysterio's. It was only ever Emma fucking Frost. And that's because being able to mark targets through walls and being able to see exactly where they are in a season where you can chase down people for minutes at a time, like, of course this medallion's gonna be broken. Being able to mark targets through walls and then chase them down with some of the most cracked out movement in Fortnite history, yeah, of course this medallion's broken. And even if this medallion was put into a season where the movement wasn't cracked out, it would still be good, because not only could this medallion be used to find players you're trying to kill, it can also be used to alert you to players that are trying to find you because you're holding it. So it's a medallion that, in a way, protects you from the negative connotation that you're meant to suffer from when you're holding it. That being people knowing where you are. So yeah, I kind of have to put it in OP, because the ability it grants you is just too strong. Like, there's a reason why if we ever have the ability to mark players, it's always either stuck onto a gun or it's locked behind an NPC. Because being able to always have it on hand, even if it's on a cooldown, on a medallion, it's too strong. It's far too strong. Plus, because it was by far and away the best medallion of the whole season, it was the only one people ever went for. So yeah, it basically made the other two obsolete. Now we're going to move on to the final medallion of Chapter 5, Season 4. That being Doombot's Siphon Medallion. And this one is going to go right alongside Hades' medallion for the same reason why I put Hades' medallion there. Because being able to gain 50 shield and 50 health on kill is really, really good. And, yeah, I don't have really anything more else to say. It's just really good. It's really balanced. It's really skill-based. It's a medallion you can only take advantage of if you're good at the game. So, yeah. Oh, shit. I actually forgot. I forgot to talk about the birthday medallion. Oh, no. Okay, so I wasn't around for this medallion. I actually have to quickly research what this medallion did, but, the birthday medallion, it's a joke medallion. You could only get it out of birthday presents, and what it did was that it gave you a balloon on your back that would allow you to jump in the air for slightly longer, and you also went slightly higher, but every now and again, the balloon would pop, and, like, it's a joke medallion. It didn't put you on the map, but, like, I'm gonna put it in useless. Like, it's the most useless medallion in the game, but I'm not gonna hold anything against it because, like, it's a joke medallion. You're not meant to use it to win matches. Like, is it funny when you use it to win matches? Yeah, but, like, it's a joke medallion. You're not meant to take it seriously. Unlike Mysterio's medallion, which is meant to be taken seriously, and because of that, I have every right to hate it. Now, we're out of Chapter 5 entirely, and now we're in Chapter 6. We gotta talk about the two medallions that are in that season. Season 1, Hunters. That being the Night Roses medallion and Shogun X's medallion. Now, these ones I'm a little bit torn on, so let's talk about it. So first of all, we have Night Rose's medallion. Night Rose's medallion has the effect where it allows you to, every once in a while, load reserve ammo into the magazine of the gun you're currently using without having to reload, right? So, on paper, it sounds like, okay, so it basically just gives you a bottomless mag. Well, that's the thing. The effect of this medallion, to my knowledge, only kicks in when you stop firing the gun, and it only loads in a couple bullets at a time. And because of that, it only really is noticeably good on weapons that have a lot of ammo, or would need to be reloaded often. So weapons like the assault rifles, the SMGs, those weapons either take way too long to reload or have a lot of ammo in the clip. So being able to every once in a while get ammo back in the gun without having to reload, that sounds good on paper, right? But the thing is, right, the meta of Chapter 6 Season 1 is currently built around the Veiled Precision SMG and the Typhoon Blade, right? Like, those are the two weapons everyone runs in this season, right? And the thing with the Veiled Precision SMG is that it has barely any ammo in the clip, but it also reloads super fast. So you're never going to avail of the ability that the medallion gives you, right? And here's the thing, right? You could argue that, yeah, you could avail of this medallion in situations where you can't take your eyes off your opponent and you got to keep sights on them, but, like, when you're using weapons like, I'd say, like the Hollow Twist AR or the, once again, the Veiled Precision SMG, those guns honestly don't take that long to reload. You'd honestly be better off just quickly reloading the gun and having a full clip ready to go than waiting for this medallion to proc and having the extra bullets be put into the gun. So, because of that, I'm gonna say that in certain scenarios, it could be good, but see, it suffers from the same problems that I think that the Ares and Zeus's medallions have, where the use cases, when they come up, could be good, but it's not noticeable enough to the point where I think it's worth marking me out on the map and having people know where I am. So I'm gonna put this as, like, probably the top of week. Like, it's the second worst medallion in my opinion, next to Mysterio's. I'm not including the birthday medallion as a joke. And finally, we have Shogun X's medallion, and oh boy, this one is gonna go straight into... Actually, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it goes, to be honest. Mainly because... Okay, so what this medallion does is that it gives you infinite sprint. So automatically, that's good, right? Not having to worry about sprint, that's good. But what it also does is that it makes it so that when you're sprinting, you're partially invisible. And it's kind of similar to the invisibility you get with Mysterio's invisibility, where you're almost perfectly invisible, but you kind of have like this faint purple outline. But the difference with a Shogun X's medallion is that occasionally you blip, like there's a flash of purple that comes off you, so you're not always invisible. Like every once in a while, the medallion will basically give away where you are, but your opponent basically has to track you and your partial invisibility. Now, when you consider that the Typhoon Blade is in Chapter 6, Season 1, and that when you kill Shogun X, you also get his Typhoon Blade, the main use case for this medallion is that you pick it up alongside the Typhoon Blade, and then you just run around invisible with the Typhoon Blade, and you move really fast, you have no stamina to worry about, and you're also invisible. Like, getting the jump on people with this medallion is really good, and it's also just really good for navigating the map, because being partially invisible makes it so that you're a lot less likely to get shot at, and because, unlike Mysterio's medallion, you actually get to move fast while using it. You can get to places you need to go without worrying about being shot at as much. Now, I won't put this in overpowered. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of strong. And the reason I do that is because, and I've seen this happen firsthand, a lot of players, they're able to see you when you're invisible, right? Like, the invisibility is good, but if you bump into a player who's good at tracking, who's good at predicting where you're gonna go, the invisibility doesn't really help. And I find that in a lot of situations, I'm not really using the medallion for the invisibility. I'm using it strictly for the sprint speed. The invisibility is just a good bonus that also, like, is good at, like, tricking the opponent, because the opponent having to constantly keep track of and guess where you're gonna go when you're invisible, that definitely leans in the person wearing the medallion's favor. So I'm gonna put this medallion in strong. I still think having unlimited ammo and a straight up damage buff is better, and I still think that really good, like, essentially strafe mobility is better. But this is still a good medallion. Like, I wouldn't say it's balanced, because unlimited sprint is really good, especially since in this season it genuinely feels like you have a lot less stamina. But, man, this medallion it's good. So, if we're going from left to right, and we are ranking every medallion from what I believe to be the most overpowered, broken, and bullshit to utterly useless, we have the following. At the top of the list, we have the Machinist's Medallion. Then, we have all the Chapter 5 Season 1 medallions. We have Emma Frost's Reveal Medallion. We have Megalodon's Medallion. We have the Aspect of Agility. We have Ringmaster Scar's Medallion. We have Shogun X's Medallion. In the middle, being the most balanced medallions in the game, we have the Aspect of Siphon and Doombot's Medallion of Siphon. The weak medallions are Night Rose's Medallion, the Aspect of Combat, and the Aspect of Speed, and the most useless medallion in the game is Mysterio's Medallion of invisibility. And the birthday medallion's also there, but like, we're not including it on the ranking. Okay? We're not. We're just not. So yeah, that is my tier list of what I believe to be the most overpowered and the most useless medallions in Fortnite. If you liked this video, if you liked hearing my thoughts, my feelings, my opinions on these medallions, and you'd like to see more videos like this, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And yeah, guys, I will chat to you all later. Peace.